Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's gonna be a little bit of a different video. Today, I'm basically gonna look inwards and say, how have I been scammed, wronged, screwed up, financially took a hit, and these are all the expensive lessons I've had growing my practice. All right, for those of you guys who are new to the channel, my name is Brad, I own a multi-million-dollar practice. We're about to be at 5 locations. And yeah, there's some expensive lessons learned along the way about growing a practice. Anytime that you grow or start a business, there's gonna be some expensive lessons that you learned. Today, I'm gonna share with you guys all of the expensive lessons I learned. These are in no particular order, but the first one that comes to mind is getting locked into a long-term contract that you didn't realize was a long-term contract. Okay. Little disclaimer, these are all my opinions. So if you're one of these big companies, don't come after me and sue me. These are totally my opinion about dealing with business with you, all right? There are 2 companies that come to mind. One is Sharps containers. A lot of these Sharp containers, like Stericycle, for example, they will lock you into 5-year commitment for each location that you have. Oh, and by the way, when we changed recently, like I think 3 years ago, we changed from one type of pickup to a different bin pickup. The 5 years reset. From just changing the freaking contract at that point in time of like going up by like 60% on our bin size that we could submit to them, yeah, that restarted the 5-year clock for them. The other thing was that back then there used to be this company called Jive, a phone company. Now I think it's called Go2 Connect. I tried to use them for my phones and I had my phone number. They couldn't port in this phone number from somewhere else. They took like 3 months trying to port this phone number in. So when I tried to cancel the contract and said, look, you guys, it's been 3 months. Y'all can't get my phone number into your ecosystem. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like y'all just don't have it together. This was like with the name change, this is when they were getting bought out or around that time. So I just told them, cancel the contract. We haven't even started yet. Screw you guys. I went and moved on to someone else. Well, about a month and a half later, I got a legal notice that I was about to be sued if I didn't pay the full 3 years in full. Even though they never ported my number, never gave me phones, never did anything for me. They tried to sue me for 3 years. Now, luckily, I called them, I had to send something back to them, and it just went away after I blew them up on social media, meaning that I went everywhere being like, hey, this is awful with Go2 Connect, do not do business with them. Then eventually they called me and said, please stop bad-mouthing us. Like, look, we'll just let this go away, all right? That's a lesson learned though. Look at the length of contract. A lot of times, even like the type of contract we have for internet, there's a company, used to be called Spectrum, now it's called Grande Internet. Yeah, that contract used to be 5 years as well for business internet. You're signing up for 5 years. Now I think it's 3 years. Look out for those long-term commitments you don't realize you're signing up for. The worst offenders by far are shredding companies and Sharps containers. All right, the next one, I just got scammed by someone who was selling EKG machines. I've been a big proponent on buy them secondhand off of eBay. So I went to this place on eBay and bought 2 EKG machines. And lo and behold, when I went to go and finally like say, where's my EKG machines? It's been like 2 months. Yeah, the guy claims, oh, we don't have them. If you pay more, you can upgrade to this other EKG machine. It turns out, I Googled them, there's many, many complaints about this. And how did I get scammed in all this? Well, when I made the order on eBay, this lady, his assistant, called me right away and was like, hey, if you cancel it and you go through our PayPal link, it'll save you $200. Because eBay takes out the middleman fee and whatever. So I was like, okay, $200, that sounds good. Let's do it. I canceled my order, went straight through them. Now I have no eBay protection, right? And that PayPal they just set up, now they try to do, I'd had to do a chargeback for it. Now they're fighting that chargeback, saying that I'm doing an illegal chargeback. No, I'm not. I bought 2 EKG machines. Y'all didn't deliver on them. Anyway, there can be some shady people out there in the hardware business. Be careful what you're buying online. The same thing could be said with, I've been a big proponent of Fiverr. I've been for Fiverr with my main logo. My main website was built via Fiverr. And then for the investing doc portion of things, about like a month or 2 ago, a lot of you guys may have noticed my website was down for a month. What the hell happened? Well, I went on Fiverr, paid some guy $700, delivered me a website, didn't work. Then I went to someone else, paid them $500, delivered me a website, didn't work. Eventually, I just had to freaking just build it myself. But yeah, be careful. There are some scams out there and you can get taken advantage of. Stick to the main channels. And you know what? Fiverr was good. They gave me a refund. It ended up being okay, but don't do like I did. Don't go from eBay to their personal website. This is totally a scam. The next one is not really a scam, but a lesson learned. It's the credentialing disaster. Those of you guys that have been following me from the beginning, When I first got credentialed, I got credentialed with Aetna. And Aetna signed the contract. I literally had the credentialing contract. And then about like 3 months in, they gave me a notice saying, hey, the person that signed your contract to put you in network with those rates, yeah, that was like a trainee or something. They didn't have the authority to sign that contract. So we're going to undo that contract. You were not in network during those times. And they clawed back the $30,000 out of my account. So of course I got pissed off, and I talked to, actually I don't think I talked to my attorney at the time, I talked to a different attorney, and I said, you know what, this is BS, is there anything I can do to sue these guys? And the short of it was, the lawyer said, yeah, you can, however, you're gonna spend more than that in lawyer fees, and then chasing them down for it, good luck getting paid. It's basically, he said, look, at best, you're gonna come out neutral with this, meaning you're not gonna make any money and you're not gonna lose any money, but it's gonna be probably a 3 to 7 year headache because they're gonna appeal, they're gonna do all these things to make your life miserable. So he was like, how much scorched earth do you wanna go here? I mean, I'll do it if you want to, but he's like, you're gonna front all the money and at best, it's gonna take years before you potentially see any payout from this. And the payout is at best only gonna cover expenses, at best. At absolute best. There's a good chance you're still gonna make nothing and lose money because you're going to pay more in lawyer fees than what you're going to recoup. So there's no way for you to know that, but just know that like credentialing sucks. It's a broken system, and expect problems along the way. Even the world's best credentialer. The insurance companies just make it difficult. There's no way around it. All right, the next one that I want to talk to is about hiring the wrong individual. And if you are watching this as my previous employees, I still love you guys. There's nothing personal ill will about you. I wanted to throw it out there though that like one guy when we hired, I was in growth mode. This is about 2 years ago. We were going to open 2 new locations, and I straight up told this guy, I said, look, I need a seasoned mid-level provider in APP. I cannot train someone from scratch. Oh yes, yes sir. I have tons of experience in primary care. I'd be happy to help you. Cool, let's do it. Quizzed him a little bit, sounded good, but granted, I did not do a good due diligence other than like, okay, yeah, they worked in pulmonary medicine. He said a lot of the right things about like medication management for hypertension, diabetes, get it, that's cool. Day one shows up, and I think he literally, first patient, I was like, okay, so we're gonna start Lexapro. And he goes, okay, what's Lexapro? Oh God, that's a bad sign. Okay, primary care, I know we're not psychiatry, but like, you gotta know what Lexapro is. Then we go to the next room, all right. Then I started pimping him. What is the name of a blood pressure medicine that we should start in this guy? Couldn't name one. Okay, what about amlodipine? Do you know what class it is? What could you tell me about amlodipine? Nothing. I ended up terminating that guy, 3rd day of employment. It's not that he's a bad guy. I think he misrepresented himself, and I should have done better to hire him and make sure that he had that fund of knowledge I was looking for beyond just like, hey, I want a seasoned PA. Cost me 3 months. I had to pay him 3 months of salary. He only worked 3 days. I paid 3 months of salary up front. Just let him go. That hurt. The other one was when I hired the physician for our 3rd location. She had a concierge practice. Should have been a red flag that after 2 years of concierge practice, she only had 7 people in her concierge panel or DPC practice. Yeah, if you're advertising and after 7 years, if you have only 7 people, it's probably a you problem. I hate to say it, but like it is very hard to be that unsuccessful. I should have listened to my gut. I should have not ignored those red flags. Oh man, the next one. PTO abuse and work from home abuse. Look, the work from home culture sometimes can work really, really well. We still have a few people that do work from home, but you need to watch it very, very carefully. First, let's talk about the PTO abuse. First off, whenever I was calculating PTO, or I should say whenever our system calculated it, the way that it was set up is PTO based off of hours worked with a max number of PTO per year that can or cannot carry over into the next year. Cool, sounds reasonable. You accrue PTO as you work. Problem is that one of the employees figured this out, and what they would do is they would basically work overtime on the first 4 days, and then they'd literally work half a day for Friday, or maybe like 3 hours, and then take PTO, but it was unpaid PTO because they already hit their 40 freaking hours. So then when I went back and like actually figured out how much PTO did this person take, and we give 3 weeks of PTO per year, they took 2 months of PTO. 2 months worth of PTO when they should only have 3 weeks of PTO. And you know what? They didn't actually take any hit in their pay for taking all that time off because they just stacked the 40 hours by working through lunch and all these other things. That was a problem. I was paying out so much more PTO, and they realized that PTO also accrued at time and a half. So then she would even super play the game where she would get a ton of PTO and the overtime pay for that 1 week. And then that would accrue, PTO at freaking time and a half. So she would get even more overtime quicker by like working like 60 hours in 1 week rather than 40 hours. That improved by significant employee management and oversight. We will no longer do that. We check every day. Now, literally our app will alert us if somebody's overtime every single day, and every day we get a ping who's overtime. The other one from work from home is that we had this biller working from home, and then we have two billers working, and one of the billers kind of was like, hey, I don't want to talk smack about the other person, but I'm submitting all the claims and I'm seeing all these things like for denials just piling up and it doesn't seem like they're getting done. So one day I just decided to log in and I was like, okay, what's going on? Maybe like, initially I was thinking maybe it's insurance companies playing some weird game or whatever. And then I was like, no, insurance companies look good. That's not it. So then I go and I say, okay, let me see how much work she's doing. Let me just check the logins. There were some days she didn't even log in once. There were a lot of days, the majority of the days, she logged in for like 2 hours, and then that was it for the entire month. In that 1 month, she is supposed to work, about 160 hours? She logged 22 hours in that month. That, in my opinion, is theft, but that gives the work from home a bad taste in the employer's mouth. When I just paid someone over 160 hours to work from home and they logged in only 22 hours, yeah, not only are you terminated, but it ruins it for everyone else. Now we have a lot more checks and balances for our work from home employees. You got to monitor them. Otherwise, they will get away with it. Same thing with our virtual assistants. We currently have, I think, like 9 virtual assistants. One time I logged in and I realized for the whole week, this one person was like answering no phone calls. They weren't logging on at all. You got to watch these work from home workers like a hawk. If you don't have a way to do it, you're going to get taken advantage of. The majority of them are great, but all it takes is one person to just basically get paid to do nothing. All right, the next one is being way too generous in my contracts for providers. What I mean by that is like when I hired this one physician, he asked, hey, does it bug you if I do telemedicine on the side? Okay, cool, not a problem. I even put in there like, not a problem with like doing telemedicine on the side. And I think I just left it like kind of super brief like that. Problem is that turns out he was doing them in between visits during regular office hours. And then the other problem was that he was running so far behind, starting to get bad reviews, and I was actually having to pick up the slack seeing his freaking patients for him because he would go into another room and sign on to Teladoc or whatever company he was working for, doing freaking visits for them at the same time. So you better bet now our contracts say, look, you need to be explicitly clear on what the hell are you doing after hours, not interfering with my business at all, because someone ruined it for everyone. I couldn't believe in my mind that someone would just set up a fucking computer, that someone would just set up their freaking computer and start doing telemed visits, and then instead of seeing patients for me, they were just blowing it off. They were seeing as many telemeds as they could for Teladoc and making more money for themselves. I mean, good for them, but that's taking advantage of me. Along with hiring the wrong doc. Remember this video that I posted a few months ago where we interviewed this new physician to join us, not the one that is joining us down south. He's an amazing doc, but a different doc that we interviewed when we were thinking of expanding south. And as part of the interview process, he was like, hey, Brad, I would love to get the names and numbers of the other doctors in your group, if that's cool with you, just so I can get an opinion on what they feel like it is working for your group. Yeah, cool. All right, not a problem. I'll share it with you. I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that my own friend, by the way, this guy that I interviewed, that he would have the balls to sit there and call both these people and say, you know, you're just an employee for Brad. Why don't y'all just quit? I'll start up a group. We'll all 3 own it together and just screw Brad. He's out of the equation. Yeah, that was a lesson learned. Luckily, the 2 docs were more loyal to me and told me about what the hell was going on, but wow, that was interesting. The last one I'll talk about is, again, when it comes to employee problems, is that problem employees need to be terminated pretty much right away. Just like that problem employee that was taking advantage of our PTO policy. We had a problem physician assistant that here in the state of Texas, if you even work a little bit of your shift, if your salary, you got to get paid for the whole day. And she knew about this because she looked it up. And all of a sudden, as things started kind of going south with our relationship, because I started saying like, hey, you can't see 16 patients a day. We're going to put 18 and 20 on your schedule. 2 of those are going to no-show. You're going to see 18 like UTIs a day. Super easy visits, right? Well, she didn't like that. She didn't like seeing more. And she started just doing this thing where she's like, I got a lot of doctor's visits. Pretty much every other day to every 3rd day, she would work like 3 hours, call out sick the rest of the day, and then she would throw it on me. In the state of Texas, I actually am required to be paid salary for the rest of the day since I'm salaried. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right there. But luckily, my lawyer in my contract set it up so that if you're not meeting your obligations contractually for a salaried employee, voids and terminates our agreement. So finally, after about a month and a half, almost 2 months of this crap, I went and approached her and I said, look, I like you as a person, but if you're not going to meet your contractual demands to see this many patient-facing hours per week, then it says in our contract that this is null and void, and you've essentially forfeited your employment here. And then amazingly, since then, until maybe 9 months later when she finally actually quit, never had another problem with that. The problem is that as an employer, people are going to try to take as much as they can get away with. That's not everyone. That's some of them. Some employees are absolutely wonderful, and I love them. And our team now is absolutely fantastic. You can't let the bad ones jade you. But at the same time, you got to protect yourself from this BS that people will try to pull. Because this person's right. If they just show up for 2 hours a day, I got to pay them for the full freaking 8 hours because they're salaried. And then in the state of Texas, apparently, even if they work just a little bit that day, I got to pay them for the whole freaking day. Drop a comment if you've been burned in business before. I bet you have. If you've been operating as a business, I bet you have, because if you've been operating as a business for any period of time, there's going to be lessons along the way. If you guys want me to consult with you to help avoid a lot of these hard lessons that I've learned along the way, I'll leave a link below. But today I just wanted to share that every business has its hurdles along the way. Mine is no exception. When I talk about how amazing things are, there's been a lot of punches that I've taken along the way. Don't let that discourage you from building your vision of your dream. I'll be here every week. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.